Nothing to lose in this. You've already lost it, so
right.
let's try and win it with the blighted argument. Let's
Right.
say, make them prove it's blighted. Get it to a jury trial.
Yeah.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to Talking Racine. It's a beautiful Monday morning, we hope. Anyway, Mr. George Myers here to my left.
Morning.
Mr. Jim Spodek to my right. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. And I hope the conversation that we have on air is as much fun as it's been the last few minutes. We had a pretty good conversation. You guys should have been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to discuss some features of Foxconn this evening. That's become a hot topic. It's become a little bit controversial. Now, it was back in July when we first raised the issue that maybe this isn't the greatest idea that's come down the pike. And people are starting to realize now that there are some fuzzy things around the edges that just aren't quite right with this program, and they're doing things that are possibly even illegal.
Yeah.
Well, particularly when you get over into the personal side of it. You know, when you're staying strictly thinking about jobs, money, this type of stuff, yeah, there's some questionable stuff there.
Yeah.
But when you get over in the personal side, it's about taking people's property.
And that's exactly what we're going to
where they live, you know,
Yeah.
and now you're talking personal thing. Now we're getting into some real deep stuff, I think.
Not everybody is willingly leaving their property for this project. And there's many, many reasons for that. Some of which is they just aren't being treated fairly. You know, particularly people who have homes. I mean, the farmers is basically raw land, so they're pretty much satisfied with the $50,000 an acre. It's like, well, okay, I didn't want to leave, but it's a nice piece of cash, and I'm basically done for the rest of my life. But people who have built homes out there, beautiful new homes, are now being told, you got to go.
Yeah.
Right.
You're in the way.
And sometimes the money isn't enough to satisfy that, like you said with the farmers, and of course the famous case Susan Kegel. And by the way, there's a movie out on her. I don't know if it's
the Pink House.
Was it just the one show? The Pink House, Pink House. Was it just the one showing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Racine here, and I do believe you can get it on Hulu or Netflix or one. If you look around, you'll find it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie, and it
definitely
shows
worth seeing.
It shows someone who really liked their house and just didn't want to sell their house. They lived there, and there's been some people in Mount Pleasant that have stated that same thing. And the question is, do they have a right to stay there just because they want to?
Right.
And under the individual rights concept, of course they do. Mm-hmm. But there are
individual rights is protected by the Constitution, right?
Yes. And the Constitution was, a lot of people were very concerned about individual rights. Now there was a little bit of a tweak given to it in the eminent domain thing, and where you were allowed to take property, but it had to be for public projects, and there had to be sufficient remuneration. We paid enough for it, but when you go into the Foxconn deal, there's a great big private enterprise that's benefiting from this, and it's being done more for that. And the idea of jobs and taxes and that type of thing was not in the thoughts of the eminent domain thing. It was more like roads and schools and things like that you might take
parks,
it down.
Right. Parks would be good.
Yeah, parks.
Yeah.
But the and you're getting into some really serious things, and Wisconsin theoretically has some laws to protect people on that basis.
In fact, after the Kelo decision in the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court decided against the property owners and said, well, yeah, this private corporation, due to all of the public good that's going to happen surrounding their project, which was Pfizer Chemicals, eminent domain is permissible. And after that, then 47 states came up and said, well, we're going to change our eminent domain levels.
Because it really
the
Supreme Court really did get it wrong on that.
Yeah.
And I think the states were out to correct it. And Wisconsin was one of those states. Now, from what I understand, it wasn't the strongest protection, but it does have some protection. And so we dug up the state statute. George actually dug it up. And it's, what number is it,
3222. 32.22, if you want to look it up. Special procedures for immediate condemnation. Now, the loophole, so to speak, sort of a loophole for the state, is this concept of blighted. Mm-hmm. If it's blighted property, then the state can come in and do kind of what the Supreme Court said they could do.
Right.
Which is exactly what we predicted on the show back in July.
Yeah. I thought it was I thought it was a good barrier, and you guys said no, that blighted thing, and look out for that. And now I'm seeing it because they're taking a beautiful home and calling it blighted.
Yeah. Well, why don't we read the definition of blight here so everybody's up to speed on that.
This is state. This is not the
Wisconsin state statute.
Right. So this is in effect on Foxconn in the state of Wisconsin currently.
That's right. Blighted property, quote unquote, means any property which by reason of abandonment, dilapidation, deterioration, age or adolescence, inadequate provisions for ventilation, light, air, or sanitation, high density of population, and overcrowding. That doesn't fit Mount Pleasant. Faulty lot layout in relation to size, adequacy, accessibility, or usefulness, unsanitary or unsafe conditions, that beautiful house that we saw in the newspaper, deterioration of site or other improvements, or the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire or other causes, or any combination of factors, is detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. That's blighted.
One thing that was confusing to me when I first heard it, you said adolescence, it's obsolescence.
Obsolescence. I'm sorry. Did I say adolescence?
Yeah.
Obsolescence. I'm sorry.
Just sort of.
Yeah, not adolescence. We love our kids. You know.
But here, I want to put on the screen one of the houses that was just. This is a blighted home, and I actually took a few pictures, but I'm going to just put this one in particular up, and I just want to show the audience what Mount Pleasant is considered blighted, and I want to put the attorney, what's his name, Markovitz from the Mount Pleasant meeting the other night that talked about blighted, and then now they are having to blight this area, and I just want to give the viewers a look at what a blighted home looks like in Mount Pleasant.
And village may have to resort to other methods to acquire the properties needed for this project. All of the acquisitions will follow Wisconsin law. To address the need and the costs associated with financing the bonds required to pay for public improvements, this village's Community Development Authority has carried out a very specific statutory procedure.
It says the village had to make these purchases for Foxconn. Otherwise, the prices for property would have skyrocketed. Foxconn must be so pleased that the residents of Mount Pleasant are paying Mr. Loyce and Mr. Markovitz to protect their company from greedy farmers and homeowners who have something that billionaires want.
Having a foreign corporation that we're already paying, I believe it's something above $1,200 every man, woman, and child in the state of Wisconsin.
It's sad that we elect people to look out for us only to find out we really don't have a voice. If this is allowed to happen, it'll be setting a precedence, and therefore will any of us ever really own our property?
More Foxconns are going to come. They chose wisely in choosing this area because Lake Michigan is going to be one of the few sources of fresh water in the future when all the places that Foxconn's factory and headquarters face water shortages. Lake Michigan is way too important to be sold for what Foxconn is getting it for. And it's setting a precedent for all the other corporations who are going to be in areas of water endangerment to come and also do the same thing.
You can't come in and, you got a beautiful home, I come in and say, well, we're going to take it, we're going to knock it down, and we're going to give you so much money, but you can't replace what you have. You can't come anywhere near replacing what you have with the money that you're being paid. So the idea is that you need to be made whole, and you need to be compensated for all the trouble and expense of relocating.
Right. Granted, now we're going into, I think they're paying 140% of appraised value. Whose appraisal is another term.
Right.
But here's the other thing is, how do they give a farmer $50,000 an acre? I mean, just think about an acre of land. If a home's on an acre of land, that's a big lot. But a $50,000 acre with a farmer is really not a big chunk of land to farm. $50,000 an acre, but why are we giving those farmers $50,000 an acre? Because I know that that's well over 140% of value for that. For those
the only thing I can figure on that is they're looking at their pocketbook, and we need a certain amount of land area, and we get this for $50,000. If there's a house on it, all of a sudden it goes up to $250,000. an acre, or if there's 2 or 3 houses on it, it could go higher than that.
But you know what they were doing, George? They're separating the house out from the acreage. So now we're paying for the acreage, and we're giving you $50,000 an acre. But then we come in and we beat you up on the home price.
If there's a house on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if there's a house on it.
But and then you get to the replaceable thing. You see a lot of houses going for a certain price, and if you try and rebuild it, particularly some of the older houses. Now, I don't know about particular houses in Mount Pleasant, but I know within the city of Racine, you try and rebuild that house in the city of Racine, it's going to cost you. You know, you can buy it for $40,000, but it's going to cost you $250,000, $500,000 to replace all the ornate stuff, and you know, they just don't make it that way anymore. So the replacement value is, I'm not sure how that fits into the eminent domain thing. That what I've read of it, it more fits in with the property value, in other words, the fair market trade value.
Yeah.
Hey, my main concern, you know, as a libertarian, is more of the personal side of it. In other words, if somebody just flat out doesn't want to move, in other words, they don't want to, they like their ornate house, you know, the house that, you know, you can't duplicate anymore, and that's what they got it for, and they're not interested in selling for whatever reason. They're third generation family living there. They should be able to do that in the United States of America, and the Constitution allowed one little provision, and that is if there's something going on with the community.
Right.
You know,
for the betterment of the
community. And that doesn't mean, you know, and this is where the judges get into all this thinking. They're saying
public project.
Yeah, it's got to be for the public, and they're saying, well, increasing the tax base and jobs are all things that are good for the public. Now, hold on a second. That's not the intent of that of the Constitution, exactly. And you've got to keep that, and that's where it's going to be up to people to keep that, because a judge will think his way right into something like that and say, no, this benefits the public.
Well, the judges are elected officials. You know, they make it sound like they're, you know, up and over and above, and actually have a real critical thinking. And most judges are political.
They're people. That's right. They're subject to politics, and
and we've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that they've done with this Foxconn project, we talked about them coming in and buying up farmland for $50,000 an acre, which is probably above market value. If you wanted to buy a farm, you wouldn't be paying that much money for it. So they come in and they can afford to pay $50,000 an acre because they're getting an awful lot of money from tax subsidies. You know, there's a lot of
and they need so much space, and that's what they've got to figure out.
But that establishes a beachhead. I mean, if you create a situation where you've got 1,000 acres already bought, that creates a certain amount of momentum. It creates intimidation on the part of the people, or on the people who are still holding on to their property and thinking they would like to stay there. So I think that's why they came in and spent so much money on farmland. Now, you got a nice house, but do you really want to be on the edge of a gigantic factory?
Okay, well,
and the other thing is,
but that's their choice.
Yes,
right.
It is. They should still have that choice. But what I'm saying is they're really applying pressure with this.
That's fine.
Up the massive
but I've seen the pictures of a little house and these big, huge skyscrapers right next to it.
Right.
I think it was in New York, you know, where they said, okay, this is what's going to happen to your front and back yard, you know.
And they should reach an understanding with everybody who has property in the so-called development zone before they start purchasing. I would think.
Listen, they would not have this problem if they did it correctly from the beginning.
Exactly.
We wouldn't even be talking about
Came
this.
with a big cell, you know, with the 10,000 jobs and governors coming in. And now,
I mean, all the politicians on the stage, you know this is going to be a disaster. And it's exactly what happened.
Well, you know the president's coming in.
Oh, my God.
Yes, now he's talking about...
But anyway, it's a dog and pony show. It's how many clowns can jump out of a car at one time. It's just
now there was another segment of the blighted definition.
Well, this is in it's later on in that same section of the laws. It says before submitting the petition under the above paragraph, you know, for taking over the property, the municipality shall ascertain that the property is blighted, and shall note any other evidence of blight, such as unlocked doors, unlocked or broken windows and screens, lack of gas, electric or water service, absence of personal belongings in the building, and any conditions which render the building untenable.
See, this is what they don't want you to do. They don't want you to go in front of a jury with that and then look at these homes that they want to take and have that description.
But that's what the law says that they're supposed to be doing.
Right. Well, they're not doing it.
It's got to be blighted and look for other evidence and prove it.
I've been through so many of these things, and I've watched these, basically politicians lie. They do lie.
Oh. No.
Yeah, and matter of fact,
Their purpose is to get reelected. That's a fundamental goal.
And I'll tell you, on some of these, I don't think you're going to see too many re-elections, especially in Mount Pleasant. But here's I want to kind of get into a little bit of the land around Foxconn now is being purchased, and there seems to be an awful lot of
it's across the street from you.
across the street.
Yeah. Okay.
All this land is, they blighted the designated area, or I want to call it enterprise zone. Is that what they call it for the
development
zone,
A, B, and C areas, whatever they call them.
Right.
2, 3.
But one of the things that I think we popped up on, I kind of want to hit on before that we get the show closes, is visas.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, a visa coming into the country, you're you want citizenship. You have to go through you have to get a visa, and then you work towards citizenship, and and there's different levels of visas.
There's 5 levels.
5 levels. EB1, which is the typical visa coming in, and you're what do they call them? An extraordinary, have extraordinary abilities. So you're in the sciences and the arts, and believe it or not, sports. If you're a sports figure.
The point is, it moves you up the line.
You're up on top.
If you're,
You're probably in number 1.
You're the most preferred.
Most preferred.
Okay.
And then 2 is, again, you have an expertise or significant expertise in a certain field, and you also, again, are up at that top. It's a little longer, but you're considered...
you might be a college professor.
Almost as good as 1, but not quite as good as the 1. But we're going to move you up in line, but right behind the 1 guy.
You don't have as much commercial potential, maybe, as these other ones.
Right. Yeah.
These are people.
And you're not a sports figure. Sports figure somehow get up.
They're going to be in the public eye. These are people that are just going to make it.
Then 3, of course, is your regular permanent worker who wants to come in, and now that takes a while, and you have to. It's a longer period of time. There's more scrutiny on it. You're seeking positions.
But it says you're skilled or professional. So
right.
it says still got the.
And you're in there for 2 years. You can come in because they may use you in a particular position for a couple of years, and so number 4 is special immigrants or religious category. International employees, U.S. government abroad, Panama Canal workers, certain physicians. So there are some.
This is very interesting, Jim. How he digs that kind of stuff out. I did not know there was this pecking order.
Yeah, there's a pecking order.
Yeah,
but if you look at them from all 4, they all have some, I guess, category and some skills that would be useful. For citizenship, and there's a reason, and there's certain levels of how long it takes to get there. But then there's the EB5, number 5 visa, and that is called the golden ticket.
Gold,
because if you got gold, you can buy a ticket.
You basically buy your way in.
Yeah.
You can literally buy your way. It's $1 million, and you are moved up. You are definitely the golden ticket. $1 million in an investment in the States. Now, if you have only $500,000 and then you invest in a targeted employment area, a TEA, in a rural or an area with high unemployment, which lowers the investment threshold to $500,000. The EB5 program is intended to encourage both foreign investments and economic growth. The EB5 Immigrant Investor Visa Program is one of 5 employment-based preference programs in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And I have 2 objections to this. One, when you start banding money around like this to buy your way in, it is just ripe for corruption and this type of stuff.
George, you're so cynical.
And the other thing that's really, really sad is that we need to stoop to this level to try and get $1 million or $500,000 into this country to help us recover from our own stupidity and why we can't make our economy go on and on.
And this is the whole family. They talk about chain immigration. But this is a fine example of chain immigration.
Qualified investors and their families, spouse, and any unmarried children under 21 are eligible for green cards after approval of their applications. You got it. You spend the money, here it is, George, you got your green card.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it sounds like it's almost it got EB5, but it sounds like they almost move ahead of EB1 people. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how automatic they are.
An investor and his or her family may live, work anywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
So let's invest $500,000 in Foxconn, or buy some land that's going to do an investment in Foxconn, and we're going to. I think Miami's a nice place to live. I heard it's really nice.
Well,
down there.
at 10 employees that they want you to guarantee.
There were that the state of Wisconsin
They're talking
is paying
about
for.
1,000 employees at minimum, or was it 1,000 or 10,000? 10,000?
We're at Foxconn.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking 13,000. Well, let's just say 10,000. I mean, that I don't know if they're ever going to hit 13,000.
So 10,000. Well, that's what? That's 1,000 visas that are available.
Well, there's 10,000 of these
No,
visas.
no, more than that. No, that's right.
Yeah,
1,000.
there's 10,000 of these visas available a year in the United States.
Of the EB5s?
Of EB5s.
Okay.
So, but and the lion's share is mainland China, and of course they gave a special now. Trump on March 23rd of 2018 gave a special opening for Taiwan.
Right.
So, and I don't have it right in front of me. These, well, anyway, so it's all geared from the federal government right down into Racine here and to Foxconn. So when you look at the Mount Pleasant officials, and I mean, you look at them and I can see them, they got like deer in headlights. This is not their doing. This has been dumped on them. Now we have to perform because you do have a political climate coming down, and they're saying this is what we got to do. One of the guys was Gary Feast, who voted against this blighting of Mount Pleasant, and we'll show that at the end of the show. I want to show he had a good response to it. I think he did a good job with it.
And let's emphasize again that it's illegal what they want to do.
Exactly.
So he was the one guy who had the integrity to say, no, this is not legal. I can't vote for it.
Now, this is nothing new because when I went back a little bit further, Machinery Row was in the Milwaukee Regional Center. Now, that was 7 counties. Those 7 counties are Racine, Kenosha, Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Walworth, Washington, and Waukesha. This is designated as the Milwaukee 7. They are the ones out looking for investments for these areas from foreign.
This is the targeted employment
Targeted area.
That's the
targeted
$500,000 and you
So,
get to bring
yeah.
your family in.
When we
Move
talk
to the front
about
of the
eminent
line.
domain, yeah, they're going to come in and violate it because they're not going to be able to accomplish this goal without violating the law, and that's what they're doing. And they've definitely violated the law with Foxconn and eminent domain. I don't care how you look at it, it's wrong. If you want to buy these people's homes that don't want to sell, there is a number. There's always a number. If you gave them the right number, I'm sure they're going to move and they're going to sell.
Yeah.
But to say that you're going to pull this blighted
loophole, that's horrible.
You're not going to win this in court. I mean, unless you've got a bunch of.
And we called it back in July of last year too. We said, listen, that's
Well,
what they're gonna do.
I wouldn't trust a judge to think his way around. The blight is okay, but if you get this to a jury trial,
Right.
I think
Let a jury read it.
you get
Much better chance.
Yeah, you got a better shot of
A
some
jury of
common
your
sense
peers.
saying that this is not a blighted house.
So this is a setup. This has been a setup. I mean, we kind of knew that going into this when we first talked about it in July of Foxconn. Now, how many people? So we can give you $500,000. What is Foxconn's real investment in Racine County? Is it really $10 billion, or how many $500,000 investors are dumping money into that $10 billion investment that they're coming in with all their money when Mount Pleasant's buying the property, giving it back to Foxconn, and then we're doing jobs programs and credits to basically employ people in this area.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Very elegant financing.
It's like, how many fingers am I holding?
That's a good question, Jim. Because if they're putting, let's just use round figures. I'm just talking. They're going to put in $2 billion. Let's say $20 million, but the government is financing $15 million of it. How much are they really investing?
Yeah. Exactly.
Are they down to 5? And what's the deal going to be? No, you get credit for all 20, even though we're giving you,
Well, so this number game.
Yeah, this is where it can get really sneaky. And unless we're watching it, they'll pull any shenanigan they can. We've seen it in Machinery Row. We've seen how government operates. If they want to get something through, they're willing to pull any wool over anybody's eyes that they can.
Yep.
And they speak with such authority and such compassion.
Oh, yes.
you know, that people listen to them and they go, well, I guess they're doing the right thing. It sounds like they really care. And it sounds like they've got the law on their side. They don't care and the law isn't on their side.
No.
But if you don't know that and respond to them effectively, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I just want to put one other thing. Eminent domain is not unknown to Trump. He back when the Atlantic City, when he put his casino in, here's him and his son-in-law actually was hawking investors in China for $500,000.
Well, that was just recently.
Yeah, that was recently. But in 1994, I don't know where I got it here. Trump on his Atlantic City casino muscled his way in, got the casino board to blight an area. And then, of course, it went to court, whatever. But he had these people's homes, and I think 6 businesses somewhere along the line, to get him to blight them. Well, they blighted him, and he went to court, and he did lose. He did lose in that.
Well, good.
But
good.
I'm glad. That was 1994.
I mean, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm glad that the court upheld the rights of the individual according to what was intended. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, you know, and personal property rights are considered supreme. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, we're no longer the king's subject, where the king owns everything, and all we do is we work his land. You know, that was kind of the old concept. We were all the subjects of the king. You know.
Well, that was one of the beautiful things about America. Not that any man can be king, but that there are no kings.
That's right. That's right.
And people have lost track of that.
The common man had value. You know, we were all of equal stature,
especially under the law.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I hope that you know, there's some challenges to this, because I think it needs to go to a court. I think
I would like to see it. To me, it would be worth the adventure of just seeing it go to. I hope one of them takes it to court on this blighted thing.
Yep.
Let's just see what, you know, if for no other reason, let's see what happens, like the outcome of a ball game, you know.
Well, the only
I don't want to criticize, but let's face it, you know, it'd be fun. Let's just get up there.
The only thing they understand, government, only thing they understand is lawsuits and take away their money or their pride, their stature in the community.
Yeah, you got nothing to lose in this. You've already lost it, so let's try and win it with the blighted argument. Let's just say, make them prove it's blighted. Get it to a jury trial.
Yeah. Well, I agree. You know, I mean, it's
the people versus the king.
I'll guarantee it'll be more entertaining for us than it will the people that are going to have to do the suing. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. So I think we're pretty much we've done it.
Did we cook this baby?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Ready to put it to bed. So
serve it. It's cooked and marinated. Let's serve it.
So there's your breakfast.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. We hope you have a pleasant day, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as polite as I can and try not to ramble off stage too much. First off, I am in favor of Foxconn. I want everyone to know that. Manufacturing, I feel, is the lifeblood of capitalism. I think the potential for good is there. There are a lot of issues to be dealt with, but overall, if dealt with intelligently by good people, I think this could be a very big benefit to the southeastern Wisconsin. My biggest issue is, one, we have been running down the hallway with scissors on this project since its inception. Speed kills. Two, I do not like some of the ways which we are moving this project forward, specifically blighted. The verbal gymnastics that goes on in a court of law are mainly focused on where the technicalities are and the interpretations of the wording. And I think that is kind of where the hat is being hung for the designation reasoning for blighted. The original statement that opens this up says that in this section, unless the context clearly indicates otherwise. To me, what that more or less says is you don't get to choose the sentence, you have to choose the meaning of the paragraph. And the idea that we are going to use phrases like obsolete platting or open land or diversity of ownership, a lot of that is rural America. And I don't feel this particular reasoning is sound. Now, we have an incredibly intelligent, eminent domain lawyer working with the village, spearheading this issue. I'm not about to get into whether or not this will hold up in a court of law if it goes there, but I will say that I've read the statute forwards and backwards and up and down, and the word blighted is there for a reason. They don't like that word there, and there's a reason they don't like that word there, is because anyone that thinks blighted is thinking there has to be something wrong with the property. There's nothing wrong with any of these properties. They are beautiful properties. I've got pictures of these properties, and I say I would be happy to own any one of them. We're using a technicality to forward the village's interests. I don't agree with that. And as far as his advice, he's telling us this stands. This reasoning stands. He's also the one that advocated that at a CDA meeting, no public comment on the agenda item was going to be allowed. I wasn't at that meeting. When I found out that that was the case, my eyes rolled into the back of my head. To say that we allow public comment, but we're going to tell you what you can't comment on, if somebody wanted to give me a recipe for brownies at public comment, they're fully in their rights to do that. So if I'm getting that advice from this lawyer, I'm going to question the advice he's giving me now for my decision to declare blighted or not. It's my job to question. Hard decisions. Well, I've been told I don't make the hard decisions. Well, the easy decision is just say, lawyer says so, sentence says so, we can do this. But I have a conscience, and when I stand before God, and he says, did you determine it was blighted for a legal technicality to further this project along, or was it actually blighted in the meaning of that entire statute? I'm going to tell him the same thing I'm going to tell everyone down here. It's not blighted. I had this incident occur a couple of years ago on another purchase right next door. I had 5 lawyers telling me we can take a dry noodle out of the box and stick it to the wall. We don't have to cook the noodles and have grandma chuck them. I'm sorry, I did not believe it then, and neither did the village board. So with all of those things going on, and the idea that we as a village municipality have the authority and the ability to make this decision, and the fact that everybody from, let's just say, the state on up has done a Pontius Pilate and washed their hands and don't want to even get into this fray, I don't blame them, because the authority rests here. I haven't been able to say the laws are only convenient until they're inconvenient. The DNR, wetlands, fill them in. The water compact, public use, we'll throw that out. No wetland restrictions. I mean, it's amazing how the laws are being interpreted for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
I will say something.
Go ahead.
The term blighted area is not a physical description. It's a strategic decision to enable us to borrow double tax exempt bonds. It is also definition substantially impairs or arrests the sound growth of the community. So we proceed.
It's wrong.
The growth of a community.
No, it's not. Quiet, please.
For a corporation.
Quiet, please. Okay. There being no other discussion, roll call vote, please.
Clausen. Aye. Fotkin.
Aye.
Dees.
Absolutely not.
Eastman.
Aye.
Hewitt.
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye. Motion carries.
Shame on you.
Order, please.
Vote them out.
So then we'll move on to new business 4B, discussion and possible action of Amendment 2 to the Intergovernmental Retail Water Service Agreement between the City of Racine, Racine Water Utility, and the Village of Mount Pleasant. Segment 2, International Drive and Brown Road.
The only thing I want to say is that, I mean, Foxconn is a manufacturer and they're going to ultimately have heavy metals. What are they going to do with those heavy metals? And without any sort of information as far as to what the environmental impacts are on what they do in their operations, we can only assume that it's going to go back into Lake Michigan. So that's where we're standing until they actually give us.
Are you a homeowner in the area?
I am a homeowner in Sturtevant. So I'm right on the corner of all the development. So as it stands, I'm already looking at putting in a new filtration system in my home so that when Foxconn starts, dumping their waste, myself and my 2 children aren't going to be poisoned too bad. And I just find that very sad that we moved to the area so that we could live a peaceful life and a clean life, and here we are.
Thank you.